The last thing I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about today was prompted by my thinking about this piece I'm working on for Tuesday about gift giving, and it took me back to actually this lovely book, Human Universals, a 1991 book by Donald Brown, which I'm going to read a couple of very short excerpts from. But we relied on it in part in Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, including, just to share a little bit, including in these first two paragraphs from the final chapter, The Fourth Frontier. Humans make sense of the past, so these are things that all human cultures, even if not all human individuals, have been understood to do. Humans make sense of the past and imagine the future. We have help in this from our uncommonly large frontal lobes and from one another. Our children are exceptionally curious and learn from adults and from one another, from the environment and from experience. We coalesce in large groups, multiple generations working and living side by side. We use language, experience menopause, mourn our dead, and have rituals to mark events and seasons. We harness the productivity of earth, sea, and sky for our own ends. We domesticate other organisms for food and textiles, labor and transport, protection and friendship. We tell stories, both fact and fiction. We have unlocked many of the universe's secrets, substantially freeing ourselves from the natural order that created us. But many of our strengths are also cryptic weaknesses. Our outsized brains are prone to confusion and miswiring. Our children are born helpless, and they remain dependent on us for an uncommonly long time. Our great linguistic diversity severely limits to whom we can talk. Even our bipedal gait, so important in allowing us to move and carry things on the ground, comes with risk to mother and baby in childbirth, and reliably causes back pain. We're gossipy, sentimental, and superstitious. We build extravagant monuments to fictional gods. We are arrogant and confused, often mistaking the unlikely for the inevitable, even as we downplay massive and obvious hazards. In everything, trade-offs. So I went looking in this book, the Human Universals book, for what I thought to be true and what he affirms is true about the ubiquity of gift-giving traditions in various forms across human cultures, and indeed he claims that there is no human culture in which some form of gift-giving is not found. But there are a few other things in looking through this book that are notable, I think, about what humans have, what has been ubiquitous in human cultures, and which we should all be thinking about remembering around now. So he's talking about the universal people, the UP, which are the people who are all of our human ancestors. The universal people have law, at least in the sense of rules of membership and perpetual social units, and in the sense of rights and obligations attached to persons or other statuses. Among the UP's laws are those that in certain situations proscribe violence and rape. Their laws also proscribe murder, unjustified taking of human life, although they may justify taking lives in some contexts. They have sanctions for infractions, and these sanctions include removal of offenders from the social unit, whether by expulsion, incarceration, ostracism, or execution. They punish, or otherwise censure or condemn, certain acts that threaten the group or are alleged to do so. So some of what we're seeing at the moment is those of us who disagree with the one narrative that is acceptable are being sanctioned, censored, ostracized, expelled from decent society, in some cases incarcerated, you could argue, in some places, and hopefully that doesn't continue to spread. But the wisdom, the ubiquitous human wisdom of recognizing that laws of this sort are necessary also mean that they are, of course, gameable.
It occurs to me that they are bringing us in, attempting to train us, and when it doesn't take, they're sanctioning us.
Rather exactly like what George Bridges, the erstwhile now departing president of the Evergreen State College, said he would do to those who disagreed with the new orthodoxy.
Yep.
Finally, the universal people know how to dance and have music. At least some of their dance and at least some of their religious activity is accompanied by music. They include melody, rhythm, repetition, redundancy, and variation in their music, which is always seen as an art, a creation. Their music includes vocals, and the vocals include words, i.e. a conjunction of music and poetry. The UP have children's music. The UP, particularly their youngsters, play and play fight. Their play, besides being fun, provides training and skills that will be useful in adulthood. We need to remember these things. We need more music, we need more dance, we need more play. We need to remember that collective joy is actually a fundamental part of what it is to be human. And the fact that they were able, that forces that sounded like they were on our side were able to take away so much of this. And that in many places, including where we are living now, they are still gone. And people are just getting used to it and now getting in the habit of defending their more restricted lives because they feel safer this way. The fact that some people feel safer in a world that is authoritarian and censorious and ever narrower with the blinders on your own particular lane does not mean it's the right way to live, nor do you have the right to constrain everyone else around you in this way.
So I'm struck by that description of effectively the characteristics that we infer that the ancestors of all our modern cultures would have had. Because the point is those effectively are the human universals. Mm-hmm. We are watching them abandoned and dismantled. Mm-hmm. What does it mean that they are being abandoned and dismantled, and why would they ever be? And one answer, which I think is likely to be right, is that in effect, something has decided that it does not have shared fate with the rest of us. And this happens. This is what happened, in Weimar Germany, where one group decided that it could dispense with others. And I think the point is, this is what happens when something defects from the agreement that unifies you. And what we are seeing now, I am increasingly convinced, are end game dynamics. People's heuristics for understanding what's taking place are not working because they're not used to a civilization in which something with a great deal of power suddenly defects, and it takes all of the structures that had a meaning and it starts co-opting them, like medicine. Why is my doctor suddenly not able to tell me what my doctor thinks is in my interest with respect to my health? Right? Why is my doctor not allowed to tell my pharmacist to give me a particular medicine? And in what way is that therefore still in any real sense my doctor? Right. It's not. Something has, it's as if, it's invasion of the doctor snatchers or something. And this, I think people are going to have to recognize that the first step to getting out of this is just recognizing that it is unarguably happening. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think the problem is many people are constructed, their development has caused them to think that at the point that you recognize that something terrible is occurring, then the point is, okay, then what do we do about it? And the answer is we don't actually know what we do about it because this is new to all of us, right? We actually have lots of analogies for pieces of this, but I think we are lacking, for example, a great turnkey totalitarian novel that would tell us what it would feel like if this happened to us. And so a lot of us are missing it. But it is, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, from the great novel Catch-22, better to live on your feet than to die on your knees. 100%. So first step. We're off script, but here we go. You got to recognize that it's happening. And then once we get enough people to recognize that it's happening, then we can talk about what we should do about it. And to return to where I started today, my sense overhearing yet another conversation in which people are speaking privately and saying, well, I see the stuff that's happening, but I know that nobody else is. The fact that I keep landing in situations where I'm hearing that sort of thing tells me that there are many more of us than most think. And we aren't in a great position to tell from the fact that our inboxes are overflowing and we don't respond to the vast majority of people, of good people with amazing stories that we would love to be responding to because we just get too much of it. But if you just went by that and you had confirmation bias, you would be certain that it was everyone who was seeing this, and it's certainly not. It's obviously not that. But the fact that I can
when I am just going out into the world with the hope of, having a coffee and working on a podcast and hopefully being anonymous and able to listen to conversations around me, repeatedly hearing this sort of thing, even in the, still we're in mask mandate territory, Portland, Oregon, suggests that there are a whole lot of people who are considering living on their feet. So let's do it.
Yep. All right. Start by admitting what you suspect.
Yeah. And acknowledging it, even if just in small ways, with the people with whom you're interacting at the store, with your family, with your friends, pointing out the inconsistencies that are the most obvious first, and then continuing to expand the flaws in the arguments that we are being told to believe in from there.
The time for being timid is over.
I think so. Yeah.